the newscast is the county judge in support of beefing this up. I got a sense that she was just responding that yes, we have this committee, and I didn't know how to really do that and how she will support your type of call for
Doesn't, well, I cannot answer a question as to somebody's motivations or what's on their mind. I have no evidence that we have moved forward with that until recently. And I had lunch with our fire marshal the other day and told him that my opinion was we need to move forward. So, and I think there have been some progress made, but it wasn't a priority. Yeah, Jim.
I was just going to say, Paul, if this thing doesn't really get moving forward, or if it doesn't look like it's going to really amount to anything, you might find some people in here that would be interested in holding some membership in that.
Well, I think there already are some people in here, maybe,
Hey, Paul,
you know,
when the collider was in out there, they annexed that property on either side of the road all the way out to the collider, because I live within less than half a mile of it. So that possibly is still in the city limits, and if the city fire department is responsible for that area out there still, then you can get it. You can get a list of any chemicals. My
Unless
question
they're
is,
proprietary.
yeah.
well, I think the LAPC is necessary, because I think we need multiple groups that have a list of those chemicals. And the problem is, and let's not cover this over with, this is the answer to everything. The fact is, it's a blending plant. And as a professional told me, who's been in the fire suppression business for over 40 years, very well respected in this community and others, you don't know what they're blending on any given day. And so you may know what chemicals are there, but you don't know what's being blended. And that's part of what occurred over here, is they blended chemicals on a scale that they hadn't blended before. They had test blended it, and then they blended on a scale, and things went bad. Yes, ma'am?
But ultimately, that part doesn't matter. The point is, the LEPC is law, we're supposed to have it.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
ultimately, it doesn't
But
matter.
if you read the law on that, if you read the LEPC, there's not a lot of guidelines as to what it really does, but one of the key things is it'll have the list of chemicals there.
I'm just,
And you know, law's fine. We're a nation of laws. We've got so many laws that we can walk out the store today and violate about 18 of them without knowing it. But the fact is that there are some things about that may make us all a lot more comfortable. But let me go into a couple of other things. I am pursuing avenues of communication with Magna Blend, and I expect to make some headway there in the next few days. So that where there will be a direct avenue of communication with Magna Blend, and there'll be hopefully two-way communication. I would ask, you know, and it's certainly your right to call them, but I would ask right now, let's just wait and see what develops for another week or two, and hopefully we'll get something going, okay? The other thing that I want to do is, under state law, 72 hours before Commissioner's Court to publish the agenda. Now, the county judge, her office publishes that agenda, all right? Any county judge in the state, not just ours, others. And it's 72 hours, not business days, hours. So our court meetings are on Monday. And one thing that has really bothered me for years, but especially since I took office, with y'all's help, is we are getting those agendas published often, seemingly the last hour possible on Friday. All right, now one thing that I bring to this is I have a lot of professional relationships I've been able to make over the years, a lot of relationships with people like y'all. If I want to consult with y'all about what's on the agenda, then I have to do that on a Saturday. Because generally, unless it's an emergency, I'm not calling anybody on a Sunday. That's, to me, that's church and family. And I don't like to bother people on Saturdays, because often it's the only day that you really get to pursue your other interests, a second business, your family interests, or whatever, because I know a lot of y'all are busy with church and family on Sunday. So what I would like to do is, and I will be proposing this later this summer, and I think there's some sympathy to this from lots of folks, is to move the County Commissioners Court to a Thursday meeting.
Is that a Thursday evening or Thursday day?
Well, I can't carry this alone, and I may have to make some compromises. So to get it to a Thursday meeting, it may have to be Thursday early afternoon or Thursday at 3 where it is now.
It's better than Monday.
But it would be better than Monday. As y'all know, I fought with y'all's help, but I fought alone in that court to keep that 6 o'clock meeting. And if I had my way, they'd all be at 6, except for meetings where you had to bring in tons of county employees, and special meetings, budget meetings, or something like that. If there was a special reason, then yes, you could have one. But I think the normal meetings in Commissioners Court ought to be in the evening.
Amen, I
That's
agree.
just the way I look at it. But in order to get something moved to Thursday, I'm not gonna be able to get a majority to say 6 o'clock Thursday. I may be able to get a majority to say 3 o'clock Thursday. I may be able to get a majority to say 2 o'clock Thursday. But, you know, if it's gonna be, every meeting's gonna be at 10 o'clock Thursday, that would still be better than what we have now, but that would not be my preference at all. Because right now, what I have is I have weekends to notify y'all of agenda items. You know, and a lot of y'all, and sometimes I'm almost guilty of this, because if I don't hear any scuttlebutt going around, I don't necessarily always think to look at the first hour available, to look at the county website and see what the agenda is. And, you know, before the last county commissioners meeting, I didn't even get an email, which I think is just a function of there being a new administrative aide and had some personnel turnover. So I want to make sure that we have time to talk to each other, that I have time to consult specialists in certain areas on agenda items. And it would help me do a better job for y'all if I could access people during the week. Yes, sir.
How are you going about reaching out to people, Paul? Just Facebook?
Facebook, I call them.
We want to make sure that we're,
Friend me on Facebook. I temporarily took my campaign Facebook site down, or it's not dysfunctional right now because I need to make some changes to it. And I have a website that's not hassle-free. So just friend me on Facebook. All right. Let's see. Water sewer issues, aerobic, anaerobic. When Al Cornelius was county judge, back in the days of the Death Star, we were one of the first counties in this state to start mandating aerobic septic systems in a lot of cases. They'd come out and do a perk test, and then they'd say, I was told 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, you have to have an aerobic septic system.
Educate a younger man between aerobic and anaerobic.
I'm about to. Aerobic, and, you know, a lot of us, if it's not our world we live in, we don't know. An aerobic system is basically a way to try to purify the water after it's allowed to go through a fermentation process.
Is that the mini sewer system? In layman's terms,
yeah.
is the aerobic system the mini
In
sewer
layman's
system?
terms, it's what shoots water up there.
Yeah, that's the mini sewer
Okay.
system.
All right, and what happens is, now, is if you have a minor problem, in many cases, with your old anaerobic system, which is the one with the lateral lines,
Yes, the old style.
the old style system, the one with lateral lines,
Thousands of years.
what they do is they come out and they say, you have to put an aerobic system in. Well, that's now state law up to a point, and it's not just a county reg. And it can cost you thousands to do that. You know, some people tell me 6, some people tell me 10,000, whatever, and then you've got to have an ongoing maintenance contract.
Right.
So somebody gets to trespass on your property,
Wrong answer, Charlie.
all right? And some counties allow you to go and take the classes and monitor your own system. I don't believe we're doing that anymore. I know at one time we were, I'm not sure we're doing that anymore. Yes, Charlie?
Hey, Paul, the state law, and which came out of the EPA, which came out of that Agenda 21, it allows for a variance, and it's got a grandfather clause in it that goes to 1982. If you have a system that was installed prior to 1982, it's supposed to be a grandfather clause in there. And the only thing it doesn't allow you to maintain it or replace it. The only thing it'll let you replace is the lid on the septic tank. Ours worked perfect for 35 years. But everybody in the county has got the old lateral line system, you have to replace it. You live out where I live, it's like White Rock, it's $10,000.
Well, and I asked a county official, and I won't name him, but I said, what would you do if you were in this situation and you had a problem with a lateral line collapsing after being in the ground for years, because all things go bad eventually? I said, what would you do? He said, I'd quietly go fix it on a Sunday.
Yep.
I said, well, why don't we look at how we're enforcing this? Oh, no, we've got to follow the law.
Well, the law allows for variance, but they don't drink one in Ellis County.
And this is on the lateral line too. Here's my argument to y'all. Jim Pitts,
Boo, hiss.
but he needs to have a red hot telephone over this issue. And y'all need to get with other Tea Party people and get these other state reps to have a red hot telephone over this issue. Is number one, there is no real data out there that says in every case that an aerobic system is superior to an anaerobic system. These PERT tests are too strict. There also used to be an exception in the code when I was at JP that if you had over so many acres, in other words, the soil bacteria was going to eat the mess, right? And if you had so many acres, it didn't matter what kind of system you used. And maybe that's too lenient, but it's not too lenient to say if you have over so many acres and you want to have lateral lines, build enough lateral lines. Because enough lateral lines will handle the problem. And if you talk to an older plumber, every one of them will tell you an anaerobic system is superior to an aerobic system, the one that shoots water up in the air. All right? It doesn't, in most cases, they don't require a pump. There's no moving parts. It's a compost pile under the ground. An anaerobic system is a compost pile under the ground. An aerobic system was put in place by people who wanted to make money off legislation.
They did.
And it's called rent-seeking activity, and I studied it in business school. That's when you use the government to put your opponent out of business or seek advantage over your opponent. What we did is we picked the technology down here at the state legislature, which is 80% lawyers, okay? That was something, you know? So what I would ask is y'all make this an issue.
Whoops.
If, you know, and I would like somebody to show me the linkage. Eventually, I don't have time tonight because I have some kids in a play and I've got to leave. But show me the linkage. Give me a brief together from Agenda 21 to mandated aerobic systems. Give me some linkage.
You go to the table of contents of Agenda 21, it's got a list of everything right down to population control. And the on-site sewage facilities is in there. You go to the state law, ECTP 285.
They copy the language.
And you go, and it's just one is identical to the other.
Okay. That's good.
So you got county.
But if I go to Commissioner's Court and start talking about Agenda 21, they're going to think I'm a little weird. But if y'all go to Jim Pitts and talk about mandating this system that is much more expensive, and if we go to state reps across the state, then we'll get some relief next legislative session.
So if you got a barn, you gotta do all this out of your gutter.
Sir?
They don't enforce it with the animals, they just say.
No, I get you. You know, and the thing is, if you read the historians and you read the people that kept track of such, you know, there used to be 60 million buffalo estimated in the central plains of the U.S. You know, and how did that waste get dealt with? Well, I assume by anaerobic and aerobic bacteria in the soil, right? Just what we do with waste.
Settlers going out and picking up the chips and using it for fuel.
Yeah, well, that.
Or frisbees.
I read a story that some people actually built houses and stuff, so anyway. Now, I'll leave y'all with one thought. We were able to win a runoff in my race, and there are a few people in the room, well, not as many, but there are a few people that are in and out of the room, that helped me walk that victory. We walked it. And some of y'all volunteered at a gun show table where we exposed the backdoor gun control this Commissioner's Court had done to us. Some of y'all are here. And I will say this, if the candidate's in a runoff whether it's a county commissioner's race or city council race, they need some volunteer help, and it doesn't have to come from their city. So, Wayne, would you have anything to say about that? Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. I'll leave that with y'all. Y'all, I'll be in town all next week. I'm gonna take a little summer vacation with my wife, at the end of May, into early June. But if you need me, call me, okay?
Treasurer's report. I don't do a formal treasurer's report because we don't write enough checks to make it worthwhile. Last month, we brought in $154. We spent $150. Actually, last month was a little more expensive because of all the technology we had around here. But that worked out real well. As of right this minute, we have $209.10. So we're going to pass the hat, and because we will be using more, those of you who were here last month, we're going to be Skyping with a lot more candidates, and that's a little more expensive process. But it gets us a lot. Any questions? Anybody ever want to see the books?
Tell everybody what Skyping is. I mean, I know, but I just found out.
That's where you go out with a bag and say, here's Scotch. No.
Is there a way for us to, or do we have the ability to donate online? There's some of us that never carry cash.
Yes, actually, you can go out. We have a PayPal account online with our website.
There's a donate button on the website.
It's a donate button. Appreciate it. That's treasurer's
Hey,
report.
while, I got a question while this ad's going around.
Sure.
I need to do a run-up. I've seen a lot of chatter in the past 2 weeks in regards to martial law being instituted shortly. That means it's gonna have to be an event. What is the Tea Party's formal stance on that?
We have. We are primarily economic at this point. We'll talk about some of the things that are going on. And we leave it to the individuals to decide some of those. But we do discuss some things. But the Tea Party actually, our Tea Party takes very few formal steps. We leave it to the members to do those kind of things.
That's fine, but, so it's a.
And we're active. I mean, there's probably a dozen of us that show up county commissioners meetings and school board meetings, city council meetings. And that's how we show which way we go. And Amy Hedke attends pretty much everything nationwide.
Well, not in everything.
Pretty close. Pretty close.
I should pass it after that.
Any other questions? Any questions on the treasurer's report? Yep.
If I could just throw an idle comment in relationship to what you mentioned. I believe we live in a time where there's a lot of stuff that's flying back and forth. Sometimes they could be from unknown sources or just somebody that brought something up that caught fire. I think we need to be prepared to defend ourselves and to defend our freedoms in as peaceful and productive way that we can, but be ready enough that we're not surprised when and if an event.
Right. Let me offer a response to that, and I'm not saying you're right or wrong. You're saying it's a false flag, which very well could be.
It's unknown.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't label it. It's
But
just-
that's just, but let me continue. I agree with that, but let me, I'm an amateur historian, and my study of history has indicated strongly that history repeats itself. And with that being said, we could just about, we live in pre-World War II and the 1850s as we speak. And that's the best I can say.
And we're gonna get into more of that during the roundtable discussion here in just a second.
Just a short response, totally agree with you. And it's more of being cautious about our publicity and public presentation.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Incognito, discreet.
That we are discreet and we are wise in our, yes. And how can we be surprised about what's happening?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Marty's gonna give us a report on some things that are going on statewide on the Tea Party.
Yeah, a
Tell
bunch
us
of,
who you are, because we haven't formally introduced you.
I'm Marty Hiles. I used to work in Washington DC as a lobbyist. I used to lobby for economic development issues and veterans during the Reagan years and a couple years during the Clinton years, and I couldn't stand it in the Clinton years, so I left DC. I even had an opportunity at one gathering when Al Gore walked in the BP, and everybody stood up to shake his hand. I got over the line, looked, I went, yeah, I went and sat down, and I was the only guy sitting down. I wouldn't shake his hand, but anyway, I knew he was an idiot. Anyway, I've consulted many politicians. I was on Bob Dole's, consulting President Bob Dole, you Senator Knowles, and other congressional and senator candidates. So I've worked from DC to San Diego, from Salt Lake to, something told me to come back to Texas, and I didn't know what was going on, but I come back to Texas. I lived there before, and wow, yeah, you're right. This is, as Texas goes, so goes the nation. But that's what we discussed, and so let me get into what we did. A bunch of us, the steering committee, went to Salado, Texas. Had a gathering of the Texas Tea Party, and it was all representatives from all different Tea Parties, and 912s, Patriots, Nationalists, all that, you know. And
Was the IRS there?
probably so.
Probably.
I wouldn't doubt if we're all on their list now, you know, probably their enemy list.
Are there any here tonight from the IRS?
But, so they were talking about organizing.
The IRS?
No, she's pregnant.
So they were talking about organizing as kind of like a coalition. They're the head group, and all of us Tea Parties work through them. We also we discussed media strategy, about social media, Facebook, emails, you know, how to communicate, how to get our word out. They're looking for people who can write and publish. They're looking at renting billboards to put our word out. Then we discussed methods of fundraising and how to fight our common enemy, basically, through fundraising. We need the money. We talked about elections, and they talked about vetting candidates, creating strike teams, intelligence gathering in legislatures. Basically, if you ever heard of Sun Tzu, the old saying goes, know thy enemy. And you can't beat your opponent unless you know your opponent. That's why I've read a lot of the liberal, progressive, Gnosticism, atheism. I've read all the material. I know how they think. I know how they operate. And you're never going to change their minds, so quit compromising with the left. That's what these politicians don't understand. Anyways, moving on, we had C-scope was brought up. And you know, pretty much all know C-scope. It's basically terrorists are really freedom fighters. You know, that's what they teach our kids and so forth. And it goes on and on from there. So that's going to be their number one focus. Is the Texas Tea Party, is they're going to go after C-scope here in Texas. That's what's being taught to our kids in curriculum.
Not every district has C-scope. Red Oak
I think
does.
25%.
I'm from Duncanville, we don't have C-scope.
875 of our 1,700 school districts have C-scope.
Almost half.
What's half? No, that's better. I heard it was only.
Yes, I have something to say about that too later.
Yeah, C-scope is a really big issue. We can discuss it online. Somebody might want to maybe talk about it a little later, and when we get into the open, we're going to have open discussion for everybody.
Penny, you
once
got
we
some
get
stuff
done.
on that tonight, don't you?
Yes, for later.
Okay, good. Then we talked about this. This is interesting. The truth voters. It's a women's auxiliary who go and check the voter registration throughout Texas. One of you gentlemen who was there with me might remember her name and what county she was. She stood up and she said, we had 8,000 dead people registered in our county, and they all voted Democrat. That was
True the vote?
true to vote, yeah.
Yeah,
So that shows you, now we get into the real scary part. Okay, which follows what I just got done saying with the 8,000. The Democrats are coming to Texas. We all know that. It's been the Wall Street Journal on. I got the article right here too. It's called "Deep in the Red of Texas." And April the 4th said that they're going to bring over 50 million and tens of hundreds, not hundreds of thousands, of people into Texas, and they're going to register every legal and illegal citizen, every live and dead citizen, and probably your dogs and cats and children's names too. And then they're going to vote for them. So that's what we got coming. It's serious, and we have all got to register to vote and get our neighbors to register to vote. Because if not, they're going to beat us. They're going to make this a Democrat state because they're dead serious. And there's a lot of people you tie in illegals and the dead, and they're gonna beat us.
My dog votes Republican.
And so then also on May the 12th, the Dallas Morning News had an article called Efforts to Change the State. And if you don't, and it showed Obama's team from Ohio, these young strategists, algorithm strategy, statistical kids, young geeks, and they're the ones who did all this information and gathered all these names and who's alive and dead and everything else. They're here now. They had a picture of them sitting there. They're here already in Austin. They're getting ready for what's coming up. And we've got to beat them. And let me see. And so that's pretty much, and the last part is that I think their weakness, what they're focusing on is Hispanic vote. But they forget one thing. In California, you have very few old Hispanic people. It's predominantly all new. So they're all going to vote Democrat. In Texas, you got old Hispanics, been around for just eons, and they're conservative. I mean, Perry got 40% of the vote. So that tells you right there, we got a good head start, and they think their whole thing's based on like California standard, which ain't going to work for them. So
Texas ain't California.
Right.
yeah.
I read a study not too long ago that said that actually more millennial Hispanics, second generation Hispanics are actually trending a little bit more to the right.
Right.
They're looking into voting Republican, actually. So the number of actual solid Democrats are kind of backing off. So that's just good news, not that we...
Well, I'm hoping what's been in the news the last 2 weeks, maybe more Democrats will not vote for the party. So that was what we all went down and did down in Solana. So it's organizing. They have phone group sessions once a week where everybody gets on the line and we talk and discuss issues all across. So they're uniting. We're organizing the tea parties, and we know what we're up against.
Who vets these applications for voting to get qualified to vote? Who's checking those?
Well, they want to check everybody, the Texas Tea Party, but as far as we're concerned, it's more of a local issue. If someone wants to run locally, we got our own vetting process. As far as
You're talking about registry dead people. Who vets those
That's the
people?
electoral.
Every county.
Each county is in charge of getting them, yes.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be running a purge every year. But they don't.
If
You
anybody wants to get
can talk
involved,
to Jane Anderson at our elections committee down here.
Yeah, Harlan.
if anybody wants to get involved in truly the vote, Mary Bosworth, and I can contact me on Facebook or email, and I'll get you in touch with Mary Bosworth. She's really doing a lot of work in that area.
Yeah, so the bottom line here is, if you really study the left, and I've studied them well, and if you want to read Rules for Radicals, some of you probably read it, that's Obama's playbook. And it's all about bankrupt the system, put as many people in government gold, bankrupt the system. When it collapses, have it collapse into a social system, and the social system is health care, because there's more than just health care in that bill, as we all know. So that's where this is all headed. So.
And I have a couple copies of Rules for Radicals if anybody wants to see it.
Yeah, it's an excellent book. It really shows you what we're up
Little
against.
pamphlets, not
It's
very
diabolical.
It is dialogue.
Yeah, it's got a quote to Lucifer in the front, in the beginning.
We dedicated it to.
Yeah.
Saul Alinsky dedicated that book to Lucifer.
Well, if you understand, Gnosticism is the beginning of socialism and communism, and it's based upon your salvation comes through man, not through God, and that's where the left comes from. That is their belief system.
That's, what do they call that?
Humanism.
Group,
Collective.
collective.
Unitarianism.
Yeah.
And there's another group that's in Texas. You can find them on Facebook. You can find them on Twitter. Let's Keep Texas Red. And that guy come and talk to the Republican Party earlier this month. We're going to get him to come talk to us here.
Yeah, he's good.
But Kyle, was that his name?
Right.
The young guy that started Let's Keep Texas Red is a organized effort to counter the young guys that are doing this Obama's bidding. So Let's Keep Texas Red. Look them up on Facebook.
Interestingly, my information says that any location where you had to have voter identification across America, not one of them voted for Obama. They all went the other way.
That's documented in multiple places.
Every state that had voter ID required voted for a Republican, and every state that didn't have voter ID that wasn't required all voted for, and you can see where it's over 110%. But anyways, I want to stay on the agenda. We got open discussion coming, so let me just, I'm done. And whoever's supposed to come up next, and we'll all discuss this when all these reports are done.
Well, whoever said that we need to get a hold of Pitts and our other representatives down in Austin said it right, because Republicans who are supposed to be conservative according to the platform, their own platform, if we can get them to quit shooting themselves in the foot regularly, then they'll never take this state over. But these lawyers, a lawyer will shoot himself in the foot if he wants to win his case. And I'm afraid that's what we're seeing in our
The
The problem
problem
with,
with that, Jimmy, is we've read the platform. They haven't.
Well, I guess when we get a hold of old Jim down there, we need to tell him a few things that is in there.
Reading from the book.
And we're gonna be talking about that some more during the roundtable discussion too, so kind of make a mental note, and that's one of the topics that we'll be discussing. I think Frank Kuchar's got some information on us from Washington DC.
You know, the bad thing about having this circle, I like to move while I'm talking, and I don't like to have my back to somebody.
You're pinned in.
That's why we did it.
I know. Okay, so I go over here, so maybe the fewest people have to crane their necks.
That is your worst side, Frank.
That's just for you, Bill.
Good looking shirt, though.
Okay, normally my little session is, I've titled it Around the Horn in DC since it's baseball season. But tonight I want to do something a little bit different. We all know what's going on in DC right now. We've got bases loaded with scandals. So that's not what I need to tell you what's going on. We know that. But we're starting to hear the I word come up, and that's what I want to go over with you. Impeachment. And that's a good thing you moved that. I'll probably kick it over. Yeah. Thank you. I love your confidence in me, Keith. Thank you. All right. And so I want to kind of give you some background on that, some of the pros and cons that are being said about it, so that when you talk with somebody and the subject comes up, you'll have kind of a good grasp of the principles and the concepts, how it's supposed to work. And if somebody says, well, you can't impeach them, I can maybe give you a couple of arguments as to why we can. Let's go back to the basics. Executive officers and judges can be removed either by election, unless you're a judge, or impeachment. All right? Article 1, Section 2 concludes that the House of Representatives shall choose their Speaker and their other officers and shall have the sole power of impeachment. Impeachment begins in the House of Representatives. The Senate then tries. And the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court sits as the judge in the trial. That's how it works. Now, what is the procedure for it? Thomas Jefferson wrote basically the rules of legislative procedure that pretty much our Congress follows. They have a rules committee that can go along and make some changes, and unless they have made some changes in the impeachment procedure, and therefore I would stand to be corrected. This is pretty much how it can work. Any representative can bring up on the floor of the House charges, and here you get semantics that becomes important, charges of impeachment. Once he or she has brought them up on the House floor, they are then referred to either the House Judiciary Committee and or the House Rules Committee. They can go to either one or both. Those committees are then charged with responsible for taking a look at those charges to see whether or not they warrant an investigation into possibly comprising what are called articles of impeachment, which are the formal charges that the president will be charged and tried on.
That would be the indictment?
That would be the indictment, correct. So they then look at the charges, they take a vote, they say, yes, there seems to be something here that warrants our investigation. They then call witnesses, investigate, and so forth, to see if there's really something substantial there that rises to the level of impeachment. And those things that rise to that level are found in Article 2, Section 4. the President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Now, I've heard a lot of people say, we ought to get him for treason, speaking of President Obama. No, we cannot get him on treason because Article 3 of the Constitution narrowly defines treason under our system of law for public officials. And treason, and even for us, treason is defined to be, no person shall be convicted of treason unless the testimony of two witnesses to the same overt act or a confession open court. And what is it? Treason shall consist only in levying war against them, against the states, or in adhering to their enemies and giving them aid and comfort. So our Constitution in Article 3 narrowly defines what treason is.
And there's a debate on it?
And therefore, unless it be proven in court or confession that yes, I am aligned with Al-Qaeda or with the Muslim Brotherhood or whatever like that.
There is a remark.
Okay, all right, I know, but listen, you gotta be reasonable. I'll take questions when I get done. You've got to be reasonable about it. We've got to get something that would be convicted.
So let's define high or
big. So then we get to the idea of bribery, no, high crimes and misdemeanors. That language was taken from English common law, and it has been debated back and forth exactly what it means. If I could go back in time to 1787, I would go up to James Madison, not put him to the side, and say, look, Jim,
say hi, Jim.
We really need you to tighten up on this high crimes and misdemeanor stuff because you don't know what type of chaos is going to cause. So can you get back with Frank, with Ben, and Tom and some of the other guys? Can you tighten that up a little bit better for us? But
if you talk to Jimmy Simmons, he probably.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But that has really been debated back and forth as to what it means. Misdemeanor in this case means more than jaywalking across the street. However, here's the tack that I take on it. This is what I would propose is where we could go. What is the supreme law of the land?
There it is.
Right here. This document right here. What is required of the president when he takes office? The oath is even written in the Constitution that he will uphold and defend it. When he has written executive orders that legislate, has he not clearly overstepped the authority given him within the Constitution? Has he not violated this? And what is this? The law. He has violated the law by overstepping his constitutional bounds of power. We have the point where he has the recess appointments, where two, not one, but two district courts have said that was in violation of the Constitution. He has violated the law, the oath that he took to uphold, and in doing so, trying to circumvent the proper role of the legislature. We could go along those lines. And when you get him on the fact that he has violated the law, seriously, a law, the supreme law of the land, which he has taken an oath to uphold, if that doesn't meet anybody's definition of misdemeanor, then pray tell what would. And so when we start talking about can he be impeached, is there grounds for impeachment?
Yes.
That is my answer. That's why I said, let's not jump off the deep end on the treason bit, because that's going to just, oh, you a bunch of nuts, you're crazy, whatever like that. Let's get him on the technicalities of the law. And the technicality is, this is the supreme law of the land, you took an oath to uphold it, your authority was this, and you did this. You have violated it repeatedly, you have usurped the authority of the legislature, you have disrespected it, and therefore by violating it and overstepping your bounds of authority, you have broken the supreme law of the land that you took an oath to, and therefore you are subject to being removed. Okay, that is the approach I think we ought to take. And as I said, any representative can stand up on the floor of the House and issue those charges. It then goes to the committees, as I said. If they warrant it, then they produce articles of impeachment. Those articles become the indictment. They are then voted by simple majority out of committee to the House floor, where it is then debated. Amendments can be offered, and by simple majority, if approved, those articles are then sent to the Senate for trial. Now, I'm almost done, then I'll take the questions. Promise. The argument we hear from people is, we shouldn't do it because the Senate is controlled by the Democrats, and it takes 2/3 vote in the Senate to convict. He wouldn't get convicted, and indeed nothing more than a dog and pony show, so why bother? My argument is this. Every representative in the House takes an oath to uphold this as well. They are charged with the responsibility of determining, has the executive branch, anybody in it, any official, have they seriously violated their office and therefore need to be removed. You make the decision, should they or should they not. Whether or not they get convicted is none of the House's business. That is the role of the Senate. That's what I have as a check and a balance in our system. And therefore, to the representatives, I would say, do your job. Bring forth the charges, get them through, send them to the Senate, and let the Senate deal with it. And if the Senate doesn't convict, then guess what? That is on their heads. And with all of the scandals going on right now, I don't care if the Senate is controlled by the Democrats. There's a lot of scared Democrats in that Senate right now. And you think that their constituents in states like Arkansas and maybe Louisiana and some of these other conservative states are not going to get on the phone with them and say, you want to get reelected? You better not back that so-and-so and so-and-so.
We're not limited to just the president, vice president. Eric Holder is...
No, any civil officer.
John Roberts.
All of them, right. Any civil officer, including, and that would include, in a broad sense, judges as well. So here's my point. Representatives, do your job. Bring up the charges. I've tried to give you some ideas to how I think it could be done legitimately, technically, to get them on the Constitution. Let the Senate try it, and if they don't want to convict him, then hang that on them on election time.
Yep.
But it's not the House's job to worry about conviction or non-conviction. Your job is to, if he is guilty, if you consider him to be guilty of it, then you bring up the charges. Okay, that's my explanation of how I think it ought to work. Now, yes, sir.
With what you just stated, in this district only, but others as well, Joe Barton's phone ought to be burned up.
Yes, sir.
And with knowing your position as a counterpart to Joe Barton, you just hung him. You just hung him in the next election. If he does not back out on his own, you just hung him in the next election.
I hope so.
It's probably his last term anyway.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If he does not retire, you just hung him. But now, seriously, with what you just stated, I will be calling his little office, and I want that same little girl to answer me so I can explain to her that she needs to read the Constitution. I already have one experience with her, or with his staff, that I was not at all happy with, but that's another story.
I understand.
But at any rate, Joe Barton needs to have a phone ringing off the hook in his office.
They all should.
All three offices.
They all should. I agree completely. Because, again, did you all follow my logic, my reasoning? You know, let's not go for the deep end, let's not go for the home run with the tree stuff. There are technicalities that we can get him on, and that logically would stand up. So, anyway, yes, sir.
When we had Joe Barton talk to us last year, I can't remember, I was very disappointed in Joe Barton, his responses, his answers. He was so wishy-washy. He'll never get my vote. Never.
You need to tell him that.
Can I get it?
Ever get my
You need to
vote.
tell him that. You need to tell his staff who votes for him and who doesn't vote for him.
Well, like I said, it's time. I mean, we have a man with an agenda who is destroying our country, and I'm sorry, this is not the time to play patty cake and nice. I forget who was said about you cannot compromise with these people. I think I've given this quote before. Ayn Rand made a statement that when food is joined to poison, only death results. When good compromises with evil, it is only evil that profits. It is time to quit being nice, quit being the John McCain approach to the people and say, you want to be over there, we're over here, you want to go to war, buddy, fine. The gloves are coming off, let's go because the salvation of our country is at stake. Yes?
I just have a question. Can we call any congressman?
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, they're gonna ask you, are you, where do you live, are you in this district? And it probably won't be, but yes, you have the freedom of speech to call anybody and everybody you want.
You have the internet. Find a zip code in his district that you want to call and give him that zip code. I live in zip code yah.
You can look up who represents me, and you put in your zip code, you get all your representatives.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
if
there
you
you're
want to talk to
misrepresenting
somebody,
your line and we don't want to,
if you want to talk to somebody and have them hear you, find a zip code in his district. Just tell them you're from that
Senator
district.
Mounthoff from Oklahoma will be a good one to contact if you don't live in his jurisdiction, though.
I'm sorry, yeah, go ahead.
When Obama took office, in fact, he probably before he took office, he said he wanted to create a civil force that
At
was
least
just
as large as
as
the
equipped
police force.
and as well trained
The
as
Obama
the
youth.
United States military. They're buying up ammunition left and right, folks. They're buying up ammunition left and right. Isn't that treason? They're getting ready to fight
No,
us.
again, treason is, again, defined, Article 3, as
They gotta start
levying
firing.
war against them, that is, against the state. Adhering to their enemies and giving them aid, we have, there is no defined enemy in what you're describing.
So suing states wouldn't fall into that category,
Actually,
or fighting against.
No, the suing states would be where they are failing, going back to Article 1, Section 9, where they
Gary,
are
if they
supposed
start
to
using them
support
bullets,
states. And
it would be treason.
Article 6, Article 4, they guarantee the states a public form of government. You can get them
If
on
you
that.
find bullets.
But again, treason is narrowly defined,
Yeah.
and we can't really get them on that. We can get them
A hollow point would get them. Yeah. Ooh.
I think they would, by concept, they would define an enemy being an external enemy, a declared enemy.
Not the Tea Party.
Well, he's pretty much declared the Tea Party enemy.
Oh,
He's declared all the veterans.
We're getting into,
More ways doing what you're saying.
I'm sorry, what?
Getting more ways doing what you're saying than defining it under treason.
Because
You
even
get
though,
by.
That's why I said, let's not jump off the deep end of the treason. Let's go the other route. All the other things he's done where he has exceeded his authority of his office, where he has violated the Constitution by what he has done. The recess appointment, 2 district courts have nailed him on it. He refuses to back down. That is a violation of the Constitution, and that is where we can get him. All of the executive orders where he has basically legislated by executive order, say you have usurped the authority of the legislature, have gone around them. That is not your authority. So let's get him on the things when we can. Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, past 2 presidents that actually have been impeached, Clinton and Nixon, weren't they impeached because of...
Nixon resigned.
Or Nixon resigned before articles of impeachment, but were brought beforehand, but I believe it was for perjury. Is that not the
Clinton was for perjury. However, I thank you for bringing that up. Nixon, one of the articles that were drawn up to impeach him on was, guess what? Abusive use of the everybody together, IRS.
Well, Frank, my wife just reminded me, Obama has said if the legislature doesn't act, he's going to have to go around them.
Exactly. And so that, again, a clear violation of the separation of powers within the Constitution.
Right.
Darren, you got a comment, a question?
Well, I just wanted to say, you mentioned earlier, it's the responsibility of the House, and then if it goes to the Senate. Well, you're saying that Chief Justice Roberts would then be the one to decide if he's to leave office or not?
No. The Senate is the jury. It takes 2/3 vote of the Senate, but it is the Supreme Court, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, who is the presiding judge of the trial.
Well, either way, you gotta think, we have probably one of the best attorneys in America as our senator, who's gonna be right there slamming him down with detail after detail. And the same with Rand Paul. You have so many attorneys, Mike Lee, who are going to do such a great case of bringing it forward. Who cares if they were the only 3 Republicans in there? The rest of the country is seeing that all over CNN, Fox News, ABC.
But when the trial is conducted, the Senate is acting as jury. Now, they may be able to ask questions, but the prosecution, when the articles are taken from the House to the Senate, let me back again, I'll get you guys just a second. When the articles are taken over to the Senate, it is generally taken over by the leaders of the Judiciary Committee of the House and those who actually put the articles together.
Who are they currently? Who are they? Name names.
Let's see, well, one of the members of the Judiciary Committee is Louis Gomer in East Texas. And I forget the guy's, I'm having a senior moment, I'm sorry, I forget his name. That's the chairman of the committee. Anyway, but you can look it up. But they take them over, they present the articles to the Senate, say, this is what we've got, we want you to take a look at it. If it comes to trial, generally speaking, it is the leaders of the Judiciary Committee from the House or attorneys that they bring in that act as prosecutors. The president is able to use as his defenders either some of the senators of his party who are on his side from the Senate, or can bring in outside counsel to defend him. That's generally how if you think of it in terms of a court case, how the trial works. So, okay, let's see.
Go ahead.
Okay.
You know, I don't want to trivialize anything, but there's a saying in the good book, how people will swallow camels and sift gnats. We can talk about the details here a lot, but the fact is we've seen evidence when someone like a senator will actually stand up and not boycott, but filibuster, that the world just comes unglued with support because they've been crying out for someone to resemble Ronald Reagan. The gentleman that stood up and didn't waste time asking the IRS guy any questions and just unloaded on him had a standing ovation, because we are just dying to have someone that will say, there is a 9,000-pound elephant.
Yeah.
So we can talk about the details, but the fact is, they will swallow the camel, they will sift the gnat. We just have to find someone that will say, this is what we're going to do.
Now, you bring up a point I wanted to mention, and that is this. Another argument you're going to hear from people is that, well, the Senate wouldn't convict him. That's going to be one objection. The other one is, well, it's going to take so long to bring it to trial, to get him out. It's going to take probably a year and a half, and by that time he's going to be almost over. We'll be in a new election cycle, so why bother? Why bother? Because this counts. Yeah. This matters. This is principle.
Doesn't
It is principle. And I don't care if you convict him out of office the day before he's supposed to leave anyway. Do the right thing. Take a cotton picking stand and stand on principle so that in the future, somebody starts to think about doing the crap he's done, they're going to think twice. They're going to say, you know what? Obama did that stuff and they nailed his butt even if it took 8 years to get him out. I don't think I want to go that route.
And if we don't do it, the precedent has been set. We all sit silent.
And we said, hey guys, it's kind of like NASCAR's rule. Boys, have at it.
All right, we're going to have to move on
Okay.
here. I think Morris
And
is
he had one last, and then we'll make this the last, yes.
I like your approach on this, but how many other two parties are on this bandwagon that, you know, what you've explained? Have you shared this with other Tea parties or other elected officials to go this approach? I personally don't think we have much time.
No, I've not been asked to speak. This first, you know, the folks here, you're kind enough to let me get up and speak for 10, 15 minutes every meeting. You're all the, but sometimes in Arlington I get to do that, not always. So this is, you know, but yeah, I try to do that on my radio program that I have on the web and my articles that I write and everything. I try to get this message out. And
there is an answer to his question, though. As far as the state Tea Party, we're concentrating state and down.
I know that.
The national Tea Party is going after him.
yeah, so, but if you know a group that you can get me in front of to give this same message, let me know. I'll be more than happy to show up. And again, teaching the Constitution and standing up for it is my passion. And I'd be more than happy to speak to any group that gives me a chance.
It looks like within the last 10 to 15 days, from what I'm seeing on C-SPAN, they're really building some cases right now.
Yeah.
And it appears to me, and I might be wrong, but it appears to me that all these ducks are going to be lined up shortly, in my opinion.
Well,
how long it may take to go ahead and prosecute.
And there's more ducks to come.
well,
Oh, yeah.
Well,
This is the tip of the iceberg.
at the elected Tea Party meeting Thursday, this would be my last comment, Randy, I promise I'll sit down. Michael Taylor, who's the deputy director for Joe Barton's office out of Arlington, Michael's a good man. He was at the meeting and he was talking, and he told us, he said, listen, I know you all are getting impatient. He said, but I know Daryl Issa. He is a pit bull. He's not in the favorite group of John Boehner. Said, you don't understand that Daryl Issa is not going to play all of his hand until he's got, like I said, all of his ducks lined up. So he said, give Issa some time. He is lining up his ducks, and when he's ready, he's going to drop the hammer. So that is some encouragement that I'll pass along to you there.
As long as we can get them under oath.
I would just like to say, if we can get someone to send articles of impeachment up on violations of the Constitution, that will also send a message to the 535 or 45 others in there.
Yes.
Like, the same thing goes for you.
That's exactly right.
Thank you,
Randy,
Frank.
I'm sorry it takes so long.
No, that's okay. Guys, we're real lucky to have Frank as one of us, because he knows the Constitution. He follows what goes on in Washington, and we really appreciate that. Al, did you have a quick comment?
No, it's just like anybody proposes a law or anything contrary to the Constitution, in my mind, that's treason, because you are trying to do away with America. Bottom line.
I don't think anybody disagrees with that.
And we need to know who it is, and we need people up there, man enough, and I won't say the other word, to take action and convict them. But we don't have anybody up there for any reason. Even our Tea Party electors, I don't hear a whole lot out of them except for one or two.
Maybe it's time for everyone here, you can tell all your neighbors to start calling Joe Barton's office and demand that he do it. It won't hurt.
Well, I'm like you, I can't use the exact words about being in the wind. If you call Joe Barton, that's what you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
I voted Republican for over 40 years, and I'm sick of both of them because it's a choice between two evils. If you try to come up with an agenda that's coincides with theirs, you're going to lose. You got to get a Tea Party member on every ballot. And if you want to get this impeachment stuff going, make that part of the platform on any kind of election. But this is what we're going to do.
And while I agree with that, he is our elected representative right now. He is our voice.
I have voted.
Yeah, I know. We do need to go. We do need to either, if you write something on paper, they are required by law to keep it. Make the effort, make the call. It's not going to take that long.
Real big question. Does he have town hall meetings, or when are his?
Yes, he does, and he publishes them all the time.
Okay.
Let me give you experience with Joe Barton in town hall.
I agree that it's an effort of utility.
And the Tea Party set the town hall meeting up at the Texas Theater down here. I know in person because I dealt with him on the Super Collider deal. I was involved in that stuff. Joe Barton, he's probably on his last term right now. He's been there over 30 years. I voted for him. I have voted for him. I didn't vote for him last time. I'll never vote for him again or anybody else. And I'm tired of voting for the choice of two evils, because the Republicans up there, Frank, if they had any intent of trying to impeach Mr. Obama, they had more than just cause. They could have got a holder out of there on the gun running deal in Mexico. There's plenty of reasons, but the Republicans aren't taking any kind of action in that regard. And they're going the way, they're not going the way of the voter. You might vote for them, put them up there, but they're not going to have a platform that's common to most Americans, average Americans. And if you're going to get a Tea Party going, you can't go in there and say, well, we're going to work this out because the Republicans have hijacked the Tea Party.
Well, that's where he's right. We ought to be burning up the phones of all the representatives and senators and everything.
Louis Gohmert is a good place to start, because his staff will give you directions and phone numbers of others to light up. And I'm telling you, the staffers are going to try their best to shut you down or make you look like an idiot. And the quickest way to flip the tables is ask them who votes for them.
I can feel a really amazing comment coming from Harlan right now.
Well,
He's been swinging his arm off and on and hasn't been recognized.
We need to call every one of our representatives, Jim DePitts, Brian Birdwell, Joe Barton,
Ted Cruz?
Ted Cruz, I like him so far. Tom Cruise, I like Tom Cruise so far.
Yeah, we knew Ted Cruz when he was still Tom.
You can get the names and numbers right off of your
And I'll tell
internet,
you,
of everybody.
it doesn't hurt a bit. I call on a very regular basis. They don't like hearing from me most of the time, all the time, but they have not bit my ear yet. It doesn't hurt. Call them.
Because he puts them on his
It
speaker.
actually may do some good if we get enough people to call. They will listen some. Well, I think Joe Barton and Jim DePitch is probably way too far gone. We may salvage Brian Birdwell. He's starting to drift to the dark side and he needs to hear from him.
And emails are worthless. We were in Washington DC. We went in fact, it may have been Joe Barton's office. Joyce, you were with me? And one of the aides came out and said, what are we gonna do with all these emails? He goes, put it in the regular spot. And she goes, trash.
Okay, Keith is gonna talk with us about, what's going on in Austin.
You think you've got problems in Washington. Mike can tell you, Emmett can tell you, we have 96 Republicans in the House.
Stand up, Keith.
Most of whom are rhinos. You've got Strauss down there as the Speaker of the House who shuffles every bill he doesn't agree with or is conservative off to Democratic committees who he appointed. It gets worse. They want to toll every road, highway in Texas. Agenda 21 is alive and well in Texas, and it's moving full speed. They have intentionally held everything to this last week, and it's been a chore to keep up with it. And I'm going to give you a website that you can kind of keep track. A lot of it came through late last night. TexasTurf.org. You guys need to follow that one. It has all the bills, what's going on, who you need to call, everything you need to know. But if you think there's a lot of chicanery in Washington, it's worse right now in Austin.
Oh, yeah.
They are intentionally shutting down the 19 or 20 Tea Party guys there. They will not allow them to speak. They shuffle bills off. They have committee meetings at very odd times. When was C-scope? 8 o'clock in the morning?
It was midnight.
Midnight.
We were there. They put them at midnight.
They are not publishing bills. They, what do they call that when they can vote to not publish a bill before it goes to committee, it's out. And if it gets out with a 100% vote, it's fast track to being approved. Give you some examples of Agenda 21. There's 7 bills that came under comprehensive development agreements, public-private partnerships.
Dangerous.
Basically, they're handing control of public highways, of many of which have already been paid for 100 years, to toll roads. House Bill 3650. Federal highway funds are being put into the basically state infrastructure bank.
I'm sorry, repeat that, please.
Federal funds are being put not into the general fund for Texas highways. They're being put into the infrastructure bank, which is primarily toll roads. That passed, 100% approval. That is Brian Birdwell. Passed through the Senate, 100%. Many of these bills got 100% approval by the Senate.
Are they not reading them, or what?
That's
What's
right.
the deal?
So is that in the
No,
House
that's
now?
what they want.
Can it still be
It came out of the
stopped?
House, it's approved.
So it's
Revenue.
done.
It's done.
Yeah, it's a done deal.
That's a done deal.
How did it pass through the House?
It got introduced in the House.
Rhinos.
So,
See, that one got pushed through by Darby Hinojosa.
Who's that name again?
San Antonio?
San Antonio.
3663, new class of bonds, 100 years. 100-year bonds.
That's not even my great-grandchildren.
That's it. This is really insane. This is a joint resolution, Senate Joint Resolution 38, deposits $3 billion from the rainy day fund into the state infrastructure fund.
Get out of here.
When they haven't even spent the $3 billion that was authorized 4 years ago for the state highways. That's still sitting there. Yet they take $3 billion from the rainy day fund and plopped it into the.
Some crowd.
Well, they're putting some hot tops on our service roads around here.
Yeah. Yeah, if you bug around brown enough on that. I mean, this is just tip of the iceberg. They're raiding the rainy day fund, big time.
Going to
No, they're fighting it, but we're going down in flames. I mean, they have bottled up the Tea Party, the 1920 Tea Party people like you wouldn't believe. It gets worse. Vehicle registration hikes. The one I really liked was, it didn't get approved, but it almost got approved. Enough people called in. TxDOT wanted its own court system. So they could levy the fines, put you into their court system, and mete out discipline by themselves.
Give them my address. I'd like to see it.
Well, that got thrown out, that actually got thrown out. And now they do have it, but they have to go through the normal court system.
Well, you know, we Texans were up in arms about this Trans-Texas corridor. I mean, we had them scared down in Austin. They were sending people up here, salesmen, and they saw that we meant business. But see, as usual, they let a little time pass and they figured out another way to go for the same thing, but they call it something else.
And then they're holding up bills like Deborah Medina's smart meter bill.
Yeah.
Got put out Wednesday, but it had to make it from the Senate through hearings in the House and get and get voted on and get put back to the Senate by yesterday. Guess what happened?
Didn't make it.
Didn't
I
make
listened
it.
to her on J.D. Wells talking about that very thing.
Oh, and the taxpayers are now on the hook for relocating utilities for toll roads. They don't pay for that anymore either.
Property taxes is what they're after.
Well, they've already passed that one. They control the road. I'll get to that. I just want to get through some of these because they're all Agenda 21 driven.
By the way, Loop 9 is alive and well and gonna happen.
It's a toll road. It's already been decided. 67 is now going to be a toll road from where it splits off at 35 all the way to Cedar Hill.
So if any of this stuff is making you mad, get on the
You gotta get on the
phone.
phone. And
Well,
who's
as far as
sponsoring?
Loop 9, there is a meeting, I think at the Villa Road Baptist Church next Tuesday. They're having a town hall kind of meeting on
Meeting, there's 3 of them.
It's a public information meeting where they will absolutely listen to your cute little opinion and tell you exactly what's gonna happen.
But if you pack that church,
Salesman.
Go ahead.
In fact, I'll just take a picture of it.
Send it.
Go ahead.
It's crazy because one of the presentations that I have
Yeah.
downloaded that has been going on for a couple of years identifies every major artery and some roads that are projected but not yet built as toll roads. I mean, this has already been laid out. It's being presented to the in crowds. So, I mean, this is serious and it's got a lot of momentum behind it. One I have become concerned about, because I've been involved with HOAs, is that they are, and it's a bill, I think it's 2029, it's a bill that is taking out the right of HOA associations to decide whether they want to have the ability to fast track foreclosures without a judge or not. Now, right now, the law says they may choose this or this. So the freedom is for the association itself, either through the development company that buys into it, to make that decision or to put it one way or the other. But the law that's being passed is forcing, and it will make it a state statute that all HOAs will have fast-track capability, which means you get hammered, you can't make your payment, you start getting stomped on by penalties and fees that in X number of days can go to a lawyer, and it just starts, rolling and getting bigger and bigger, and they can come at you without having to go through a judge to foreclose on you.
But let's keep going on some of these other bills.
And that is Agenda 21
There's got a
related.
couple others. They are also socializing the losses for toll roads and privatizing the profits. What I mean by that is House Bill 3650, it's already been approved by the state, by the Senate. This one got approved also. If they decide to build a toll road, and I'll get into that also, they can come back, if the toll road doesn't make money or doesn't meet expectations, they can come back after the county's sales and property taxes to make up the deficit. Also, if there's a high state highway road, 77, that's got lights on it, intersections, they can come and make that a toll road without the vote of the people.
What about interstate highways?
Those can be tolled also
What's
at some
very
point. They can toll, basically, they can toll any road that the state controls. Now, those like 35, that's a federal highway.
Right.
They can't touch that. They can't touch that.
They can do parts of it.
They can do parts of it. If the state controls it and repairs it and things like that, then they control it. Perry is the one that's pushing this. Strauss and the others. It's been Perry is sold out to the tolls, and that's how they want to build the roads from here on out. It's crystal clear. The problem is that they're socializing it. It's not my big problem with it. You can toll the road, but they're actually putting the taxpayers on the hook for a lot of this. Another bill that got through, it was sitting on his desk. He hasn't signed it yet. Perry hasn't signed it yet. 3664. There's a bill to, just like the IRS, force every nonprofit group in the state to report their donors.
Yeah.
Make phone calls on that.
That's just like the IRS.
That's at 504.
3664, I think.
I called them yesterday.
Yeah, and I called Pitts. I demanded somebody call me, but naturally I got a phone call back. No. But these are just some of the bills. I mean, you can tell how your state legislature's going. It goes on and on and on.
How many bills have been introduced so far?
Over 1,000.
When's it over?
That's a lot to cover, and even your most active groups
Today.
cannot cover
18.
every bill, guys. So we need a lot of people to knuckle down and do some crash course on Texas legislature and bills. And we need people's help reading bills, following bills, analyzing bills, and getting to know different reps. Because this is not a two-person process.
And if you can't do that, get plugged into somebody that is doing that and make phone calls.
One last comment, then we'll take some questions. The Texas Tea Parties have decided to focus on Austin because of the influence that's coming in from the Democratic Party and the fact that half of what we got up there, even though they go as Republicans or rhinos, and they're selling us out every day, and at least we can sort of kind of control them.
So we got 2 years to fix this.
Oh, you're going to have to stay after them for a long time.
Well, what I'm saying is there's 2 years between legislators that,
Correct.
legislators
Correct.
session.
Correct.
10 months before the next one.
Busy on off years.
But, Jim Pitts is one of
You
the
don't have that much.
worst.
There's so much going on.
People out there.
Backroom deals right now.
Worst offender.
He is one of the worst offenders.
So is my rep, Diana Patrick.
So,
Republican or
questions,
Democrat?
comments?
How do we get Tea Party people run for office?
She's
so we
a
vote for
Democrat in
them?
Republican's clothing.
Well, we've got, TJ's going to run against Jim Pitts again. But we need more and more of these people running. We'll get into a discussion at a later date, probably in June, about how this Tea Party is going to refocus its efforts.
This is related to elections and such, but how about right now, for people who haven't said they are going to run for something yet, why don't we start walking to grow the Tea Party? Why aren't we trying to get to where we have 100, 200, 300 people? Ellis County is huge, population-wise and land.
No, it's actually very small. It's 165,000 people. I mean, we're not,
Well, compare.
That's a lot of people. Out of 165,000 people, we've got, what, 50 in here?
Well, the Fort Worth one, which is larger, they get about a little over 100 people every month or two.
yeah, but they've got 3 times as many people.
I'm going to run against Bill Dobson for county commissioner for this precinct.
Oh, good. Just stand up and tell us who you are.
I'm Darren Brodnick, and actually I've been speaking with Paul. Paul's going to be very helpful as far as just teaching me, not as far as endorsing, but just teaching me a lot of what's going on. But I'm going to run against Bill because I believe that I can have a lot better impact at the county level. We need to really be trying to grow the Tea Party, and instead of like saying, well, hey, I'm just walking for one candidate, say, hey, I'm trying to build the Ellis County Party. And by the way, there are several people who are running, such as Frank Kuchar, TJ Favy, who are actually, like, oh, and we do have a county commissioner who's a frequent visitor with Paul Perry. That's the way to do this, is to, I mean, RC who ran, whenever I was block walking for him, I was trying to say, you can come out and meet him at the Tea Party function. You don't even have to.
We're gonna have a much deeper discussion of this, for these reasons. We've suffered because we've been so, one of the reasons I maintain is we've been so successful. I mean, we control the Ellis County Republican Party, lock, stock, and barrel.
Yeah. If there's a quorum, we own it.
We own it. So that gets people complacent, and so we're going to change direction, get more active at the state level than we have been
How
in
do
the
you
past.
replicate that?
Well, and here's the other thing, just because we own the Republican Party does not mean we control all the Republican candidates.
Correct.
Those are two different things, but the more people we
Well, I
have
will,
in the
yeah,
Republican
and
Party.
here's a comment, a tidbit that you need to know. Our
We
own,
have to have people, not just as the executive committee, but we need to have people that are not on the executive committee actually doing work for.
well, we need people we need basic level, calling your representatives, calling your county commissioners, calling your county judge. We have a county judge that maintains that the Ellis County Republican Party is not legitimate representative of the Republican Party in Ellis County. And that she doesn't have to pay any attention to us.
But it's not establishment.
That's why I'm running against her.
Miss Carol Bush, we won't name names, it's Carol Bush.
Told that straight out, that
Is there
the
anything we can do
executive
about
committee
that?
does not represent.
We need to get somebody run against her.
I mean, seriously, is there anything we can do right now? If we call her?
She doesn't care. I have had more meetings with that woman than.
Oh, you know what? Actually, I would absolutely encourage you to call and talk to her and hear firsthand her answers, because what we tell you is not going to resonate with you nearly as well as you doing it firsthand.
Does she
So
have
even
a
though you know what
city
you're going to
manager?
hear, call and hear it yourself.
She holds us in high contempt, we'll put it, I will be that blunt.
You're calling.
Well, one of the big reasons why she does not think that the Ellis County Tea Party and the Republicans in Ellis County are legitimate is when they raised taxes with her leadership last year, our property taxes. We thought it over for too long, for several months, and we finally got our ducks in a row, and we censored the whole bunch of them that raised our taxes. Now, that's the reason they don't like us, because we censored them. And a lot of the people in the Republican Party did not want to do that because they thought it would shine a bad light on Republicans here in the county, see. But we just did the right thing, and we censored them.
Correct.
And so they are holding the Ellis County Tea Party responsible for their actions.
Well, the members of the Tea Party that are on the Republican Executive Committee.
I understand what you're saying, but
And
they're
we
holding
sent
the
you
Tea Party.
that's why we're.
But it gets worse than that, because the same complaints you have about the House of Representatives in Washington is the same attitudes you're gonna get at the county commissioner.
That's right.
They
That's the
think
same problem.
Because we have
that is,
establishment Republicans in Ellis County the same way we have establishment Republicans.
well, they think it's their job to have. They don't think that they do not qualify themselves as public servants as normally.
And what were the establishment Republicans in the 1980s? They were Democrats.
Let me put it this way, I've been around politically so much, and this is the first place I've been where I see where elected officials don't even hardly talk to the party. Most places, you get your blessing from the party, and the party has a hand in getting you volunteers and getting you reelected. Here, they act like they have nothing to do with it. Once they're elected, adios. I mean, I find it appalling. I've never seen this condition anywhere but in this county. Now, it could be other places around here too, but it's just, this to me is not normal.
The county south of us is Navarro, and it's an establishment county. Joe Barton comes there, talks to them, writes some checks. Their state rep is another one of the Strauss lieutenants, Byron Cook, writes them checks. They do their bidding. I mean, they work very well together. And thus, there's no Tea Party movement in Navarro County. I tried.
Yeah, we tried last couple of years ago.
Navarro has one of the lowest voter turnouts of any county in Texas.
Well, they got 50,000 people in the whole state. I mean, county. I mean, they got a third of the population that we have in Ellis County, but they have a very low turnout, and they have a higher turnout of the other team.
What's the demographics of Navarro County? I remember at one time, I was being
They're slowly changing the people.
They're a very economically poor county.
No, I'm talking.
So they're more in line with the government handout, so they're more in line with the not Republican Party.
I understand what you're saying.
Can I ask Casey a question? Sure. How do we get some more people in Austin like our Attorney General, Greg Abbott?
Elect him as governor.
Well, certainly some of your opinions to him, I would highly encourage that, but more people like Greg Abbott, I would say, properly vet your candidates. That's what I would honestly say. You know, Mr. Abbott, this is why I'm absolutely blessed to be working for him, because if he says he's gonna do something, he's going to do it. Yeah, he said that he's going to take the federal government to court about Obamacare. He said he would. He almost did with the UN Arms Treaty, but luckily it died in the Senate, so he wasn't going to ratify that. He wasn't going to dare go behind the Senate. But if he says he's going to do something, he's going to do it, and he doesn't. And it doesn't matter if it's going to be what administration's there in Washington, because he even sued the Bush administration a couple of times.
Can you tell us what his stance is on C-scope?
As of right now, there is a press release that was just released. I can't go too much in detail, but there's a press release. It's online for the Attorney General's office. Apparently, C-scope is trying to charge people to have a look at their curriculum or their core plans, and that is against the law now. And they said if there's any school district that is trying to do that, then you need to call the Attorney General's office immediately, because if they're not in compliance, then some legal action could be taken on behalf of the
I just want to know, does he want it to stay there and just be more transparent, or does he want to get rid of it?
Well, I can't honestly say that right now.
What is his relationship, professional relationship with Rick Perry?
What is his professional relationship?
Well, actually, yeah, more than professional. What?
Is there politics online?
Yes, yeah, he articulated it better than I did.
Well, I mean, they're both very conservative. You know, I would say.
Excuse me?
Okay,
We're
Casey,
talking
that's
about
very
this.
dangerous.
Well, as far as that is concerned, I have no idea. In fact, here, let me go ahead and at least say this. As far as his issues on Trans-Texas Corridor or anything else like that, I cannot speak about anything like that, because he has really not formally declared office yet. So he obviously has no issues or anything else like that have really been brought forth. What we can be able to see, though, is what kind of a person Greg Abbott has been as your current Attorney General. And if you're very impressed with the job that he's doing, then if whatever he decides to run for in the future.
He's got my vote.
He's got my vote.
Right.
Okay, wait. Everybody, Casey, you'll be here after the meeting's over, right? So everybody go attack Casey after the meeting and.
Normally, we've been going for an hour and a half. Wait. We've been going for an hour and a half. Normally, we would have gone into general discussion. If you want to continue, we will continue. If those of you that want to leave, we can continue.
Can we warn people like myself on high blood pressure medicine to take their meds before they come to? We should always do that before.
I want to tell you something. You know, our country was set up on we the people. And let me tell you something. I just went to those C-scope meetings. I was in Austin. And in that committee, and I want to tell you that they pushed that hearing to midnight because they didn't think we'd be there. And they push everything that is in our favor to midnight. But you know what? You can vote electronically or give your opinion electronically that goes to that committee. We're talking about that committee.
Not outside the Capitol, you can't.
Inside the Capitol.
You have to be in Austin to register an opinion.
We were there, we did it. Okay, so you have this committee. You have to get these things out of committee, all right? Let me tell you, there were 75 people signed up to speak against C-scope to get it out of committee so it could come under our TEA or SBOE, because it is a curriculum outside of Texas. It is a communist Marxist UN agenda that is it is not under our control at all. So the bill was, get it under our control in TEA. That was the bill. All of these guys are Democrats. But because we were there, en masse, you've got to get up and go to Austin and look them in the face. And I'm going to tell you, it's not a dying song out there. We got it out of committee because there were 75 people to speak. Now, when you start doing that at midnight, that's going to run till 2 or 3 in the morning. And they didn't think we'd be there. And do you know when that 75 people showed up there and we wanted to speak, do you know they said, we don't want to be here till 2?
Yeah, we don't wanna
It's
hear
out of committee. And they took it out. All you have to do is go there. This government is so easy. We were given this right, but we're not there. Not there. There were 150 people seats in that
So
in
it
that
took
hearing.
that few people to turn.
It's all it takes if you'll just go and call these guys all over everywhere and talk to them. And let me tell you something, when you're not in their district, they will say to you, are you a constituent? And my answer is, are you an American? We have forgotten we're Americans. This is the United States of America.
That's a good response to use to the congressman when you're calling outside their district. Are you a constituent? No, I'm a voter, but I'm American.
Well, my answer is, are you an American? And there's dead silence on the other end because they haven't thought about that for a long time. They're divided. You know, this division in our country, we are the United States of America. Let's act like it. And so I say to them, no, I'm not in there, but let me tell you what happens. I'm watching because your man votes or your lady votes, which affects America. And when that guy or girl's running again, my dollars are going to go to the opponent. So I don't have to be right there. I can put your opponent, put your guy out with his opponent through my dollars of supporting that campaign. So let's start thinking America again. And let me tell you, let's not talk Democrat, Republican, let's talk America. Every vote is America. And let's remind them. And let me tell you one quick thing about Arizona. Remember when Arizona came up? Well, when they passed the law that they would take a stand against the federal government and just try to enforce the federal government laws. Well, there were 39 senators that did that. You can get all this on the internet. I sent every one of them an email, called every one of them and said, thank you, we're a neighboring state. You know, we have borders, we have problems like you, thank you.
Did you hear a response?
I did. And I have 2 of those senators that stay in touch with me all the time, and they send me updates on what they're doing. Believe me, the people that understand America will talk back to you all over America. So
Those are
you
state
call
senators,
them
Benny.
and tell them.
State senators, those are state senators.
Yes, and they will talk back to you. They email me back, they stay in touch. Sometimes a year later it'll pop up and they'll say, just wanted to keep you posted on what we're doing about
Now,
that.
them are federal senators, aren't they?
No,
those are
state senators.
But I said, it doesn't matter where they are. And we're out of session now, right? We're out of session in Texas. Okay, but let me tell you, there are still people there. I want to ask all of you and this Tea Party, because we're doing it in other organizations, to get together and put up sign-up sheets, and we need to walk those halls. And you need to pop into your senator or your representative's office and tell them, you see them eye to eye, they'll change, they'll do what you say.
Will Jim Pitts see you?
Yes, he will.
They can't get you in the shredder.
Come to a Tea Party meeting, I know Jim Pitts, and I called his office and I got told no, he had to go handle something with his son one month. No, the next month he had to go and handle something with his sister. And the third time I said, he's coming this time. They said, no, he has a social event. It was about Thanksgiving. I said, you know what? I'm coming to see him. He is coming to see us. Okay, well, I'll talk to him. I'm going to see him this afternoon. Call back and said, well, he's agreed. He'll be there for 30 minutes. I said, no. We elected him, and he'll stay as long as we want him.
And he'll see me on my schedule.
And he's going to be in our meeting until we're through with him.
And you can see that on
And
YouTube.
he came.
There's a YouTube video.
He came. I'm telling you, just get up.
Did he have a big smile on his face?
He had tears.
After the Tea Party got through.
He had tears.
But go and get in their face.
He wasn't sitting down.
And you will win. This is how we're set up this way. We the people. And when we get up and speak, It happens. It happened with Cisco. It got out of committee because they didn't want to hear from all of us. Same thing happened on the death panel.
303.
They moved that to midnight. So plan to go for midnight. The DoubleTree is just 2 blocks away. You can get a suite, and you can take 6 people and spend the night, and $200 for a suite. 6 of you, it's $50, less than
Price line
$50.
it.
And there you go. Plan to be there. They're going to move you to midnight. Who cares?
We used to love to go to midnight movies when we were teenagers.
Now, that's a movie. Go to also. That is real life. It is not hopeless.
But you can't do in that meeting what you did when you went to the movie.
Just, it is not hopeless. It is not hopeless. There is a group of people getting together called the Battlefield Dallas Organizational Meeting, and this is going to be to talk about what Obama is doing about moving in his organizers. He's bringing in Jeremy Byrd, the National Field Director, and Alex Steele, the Colorado Field Director. These people have moved to Texas, and they are coming. There's a meeting coming up here to do that. Get to know, if you do not know Texas Eagle Forum, get on their mailing list. You will know every bill that's coming. You will know what to do with it. Texas Eagle Forum. And the other mailing list you get on is called the Concerned Women for America. And if you will get on those 2 mailing lists, you will know every bill that's coming up. You will know when it's going to be heard. This is how we know to get together our groups that can go. Not everybody can go every time. Well, look how many of us are. Some are retired, some are working. We can show up. Not everybody every time, but we can show up. If you show up, you can run your government.
What happened to that bill?
I would also add.
The one that voted out, what happened to the bill?
It goes down to the House. We're voting it. We need to be in front of our House, guys.
They haven't voted yet.
This turf organization that
Texas Turf. It's like the Eagle Forum. And they have summarizations of every bill, the good ones, the bad ones, and all
it
that
has
stuff.
to do mostly with transportation.
No, it covers everything. I just picked up. The worst offenders this time were transportation and the water bills. There's worse
The
ones out
smart
there.
meter is an incredible thing. They
So-
can monitor your house and shut you off.
With that.
And you know, Texas has its own electric grid. We don't need any electricity from
Can we
anywhere.
take a pause? We gotta make an announcement before people leave because we got some important things to say. And then you can get the floor back. Okay, I'm gonna make an announcement that, I'm gonna announce that Frank Kuchar is gonna announce his candidacy for Barton's seat. And it's gonna be.
No, that's
For our seat.
RC.
RC. He just has to be sitting, he just has to
Well,
be
he's just
sitting.
sitting in and out.
He's keeping
But
it warm.
it's gonna be, everybody keep it, if you got pencil and paper, when to write this down, we'll put it on the website too. It's gonna be on the 27th of May at the Kimball Park in Midlothian. And it's gonna be, start showing up between 10 and 11 is when people show up, and he's gonna make his announcement at 12. We're gonna try to get the media to come out. And we're gonna have hot dogs and hamburgers. You just gotta bring your own drinks, and you'll like to make it a potluck. If we're still gonna do that?
For side dish, yeah, chips
bring
or
a side
baked
dish or
beans, what are you
something,
going
yeah.
to
27.
Potato salad.
27th.
Yeah, Memorial Day.
That's
Memorial Day.
At noon. Memorial Day at
Yeah,
noon.
bring your
Yeah.
families, the more the merrier, because if we get the media out there, it makes it look like we got a really
Because
big.
we've got the gazebo in Kimmel Park, so it'll be, if it's hot, it'll still be out of the sun. Kimmel Park doesn't have a lot of shade, but we have that, I guess the pavilion is where we will be.
And brand new bathrooms.
Brand new bathroom, sweet.
My plan is I'll have a short speech, or, be short maybe, speech about Memorial Day and its significance and how it relates and ties to our founding principles and our Constitution. And at the end of that will be my announcement, and like he's saying, we're gonna send a press release to the radio stations and the TV stations, the papers. Hopefully, at least a couple of them will show up, and if they do, it's gonna look real bad if I've only got, 15 or 20 people there. We need to get as many people there as we can. Last time around, Barton outspent me 163-1. We still got 12% of the vote, and with your help, with you good folks here, we came in second in Nellis County.
Remember Chow Chow?
Second. He spent $300,000 to my $10,000, and with your all's help here in Nellis County, I still came in second. beating him.
How big is his district, how many counties does his district encompass?
All right, the district includes all of Navarro County, all of Ellis County, almost all of Arlington and Mansfield, except for that little bit of Mansfield that goes into Johnson County. Then it goes across southern Fort Worth, Crowley, Rendon, in that area.
I know, lower side.
The lower side. But like I said, this time around, I know some people that either have money or they know people that know money, that have money, that I'm gonna be able to be better with raising the funds that I need. And I've got some professional help here alongside me that I didn't have last time. So we're gonna give Uncle Joe a run for his money this
Doesn't
time.
it go south down into Limestone County?
No, not anymore. No, Ellis and Navarro, that's as far south as it goes. So anyway, like I said, this time around, the stakes, we're in a life and death struggle. The stakes are high at every level, and I'm gonna need volunteers, I'm gonna need money, I'm gonna need everything I can
The
get.
only thing that beats organized money is organized people, and you need as many people as the
Absolutely.
opposition has dollars.
We're gonna need volunteers for all kinds of work.
And as always, you people here, I feel like we're family because I've been here, for several years now. I enjoy coming here. I intend to keep coming here no matter what. And when I'm elected, since you meet on weekends, I'll be able to come to your meetings. And I'll give you a true Washington update from the bird's eye seat. But anyway, I am proud to be associated with you folks, and I really appreciate the encouragement that you gave me last time and continue to have.
And I believe that Frank will come back with bruised knuckles and black eyes. He will be in the fight. That's, other than,
No bruised knuckles. I'm taking a Louisville Slugger with me. I ain't gonna hurt my hands.
Our current representative claims to be conservative and claims to fight behind closed doors. I don't ever see any bruises. I don't ever see any scars. The man is not in the fight.
Oh, that's the announcement.
Yeah.
So I guess now we go to open forum. It's open forum if you want to continue. Anybody else? Open forum?
Tom would like to say something.
I didn't come prepared to sell these. I had them in my car, and Linda suggested that you might be interested. This is a brand new video. It came out 2 weeks ago, last Wednesday. The gentleman made it, he made one. It's called "They Come to America," about illegal immigrants. And somebody told him, well, you need to go to the section board to make one. So he came down and he visited. I'm happy to say I'm in here a little bit. But he authorized me to make a special price. You buy these online for $20 plus postage, but he authorized me to sell them for $10. If anybody would like to have one, I'd love to get it to you. And he has Rudy Giuliani in here. He has Peter King, Congressman from New York. He's got some pretty powerful people in here. My favorite part of it is where he is interviewing Peter King. He asks Peter, he said if there's a truckload of illegal Mexicans coming into Texas, a truckload of Muslim terrorists coming into Texas, and a truckload of Chinese coming into Texas, but you can only stop one truckload, which one would you stop? Peter King says the Chinese, and he later explains that. He gives good rationale for that. But then Dennis Lynch, the gentleman who made this, pops a picture that I took him to make of a rescue beacon. They're all over South Texas. They have instructions that if you're in danger or lost, press this button and stay right here and help will come. Well, the 3 languages that the instructions are in are English, Spanish, and Mandarin Chinese. We're getting that many Chinese coming into Texas. So, and the look on Peter King's face is absolutely priceless. He has no idea what's going on. If anybody cares to come down to South Texas, I can take you to show you some of the beacons. But at any rate, if anybody'd like to have one of these, I'd love to fix you up. Thank you.
And also, I want you to know about another DVD that's wonderful. It's Behold the Pale Horse, and this comes about America. And it is an excellent DVD. You can find it on the internet and on Amazon. And actually, Susan Rodriguez, who has run for sheriff, one of her relatives actually created this. So behold, pale horse, we'll have some available for you. It's outstanding.
And we didn't have a chance a while ago to give Penny a hand for giving us, I think we need to give her a hand.
There's so much more to do. We'll do it next time.
We probably need a Tea Party Travel Bureau set up where when something's coming up, we
need a
let you be our travel agent, get down to Austin.
I was thinking we need a safe house in Austin.
Okay.
You know, so that if we, look, I can make it there, is there a floor I can sleep on?
Yeah, do I have somewhere to stay? Well, we can do that. We just need a list of people that can go. And here's the times can you go. Some can go, some can't, but it'll get covered. And I'm telling you, you won't believe it. You show up and they'll pay. They don't see us. That's why they don't pay. Joe Barton at Tea Party right here, I mean at his town hall right here in the chambers. Last time he was here, he will not recognize him because he gets asked questions he doesn't like. But his last statement, someone said to him, what's new coming up? And he said, oh, online gambling's coming up. And he says, you know, and I'm going to vote for it because I like to gamble. Out of his mouth, not, what do you think? I'm going to vote for it because I like to gamble.
And they have a poker night tonight, as a matter of fact.
Fundraiser for his campaign.
He likes to gamble, and his Mr. is it, who is his right-hand man? I asked him about that. I said, Doug, what is this with Joe? And Joe and I exchange letters all the time. You can write to Joe Barton, and you tell him not to send you a form letter. And Joe Barton will answer your letter. It will take 2 weeks, but he will answer it precisely what you send him. And it's priceless what he puts in writing. You will know him, and you will know how shallow he is, and you will know who he really is, and it's from him. He answers me all the time. Amazing.
Can I have copies of those
Everybody know how to
letters?
get a hold of you?
Pardon?
Everybody know how to get a hold of you?
Everybody listen now.
What?
I said, does everybody know
Everybody
how to get a hold of
listen,
you?
please.
How to get a hold of me?
Hey Penny, are you on Facebook?
No.
We need to change that.
I have an account, never go there. I am not a social media person, but I'm telling you.
Okay, we need a volunteer to be Penny's social media
That's
coordinator.
right, because there's so much.
This is a really good job for somebody who can't get out, can't go places, can only do stuff from a computer, so.
And I want to tell you, there is something coming up. If you think Sharia law doesn't exist, Sharia law does exist. Dearborn, Michigan is the perfect place, but you know, God is good, and He is faithful to our country if we are faithful to Him. And there have been so many incidents at their Arab festival where Christians have been abused and arrested and so forth. And do you know they canceled it this year? They have canceled the Arab festival because the Christians stood up and sued them. And so let me tell you, this is the act. We can stop this stuff. So it is canceled. It is canceled. So Sharia law is active there. A third of the people there, and let me tell you, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, in 2010, when they arrested these Christians at the Arab festival for no reason, I got on get on your internet, get on your Google. I'm not on Facebook, but boy, I tell you, Google and our good friends. And I looked up the mayor's contact, the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan. And I called him. And I sent an email to him. And I said, you cannot do this to Christians. This is a Christian country. It is founded on Judeo-Christian principles. And the Muslims will never have this country. Never. And that I'm praying for your soul. And I'm sorry for you because you're under a third of your population is Muslim. And I don't know who you are. But I will tell you that we know who you are. And you're being prayed for. And do you know that man sent me back a 3-page email? Now, he was trying to defend his position, but he sent me back. So get in touch. Who ever heard of it? I have a 3-page email response from the mayor. And then I picked up the phone and called the police department. And that police chief's last name is Haddad, Haddad. Does that give you a clue?
Yeah, that's not sure.
Now, he doesn't have an email, and he wasn't in, but I left him a voice message.
Is he Irish?
That's so
Or
Haddad.
Irish. That's terrible for the Irish to be called that. But anyway, and I said, your name indicates you may be Muslim. I don't know whether you are or not, but I'm not. And this is America, and you will not have this country. Now, I figured they'd send somebody down here to get me, but you know what? We can't do that. We can't be afraid. We have to talk to these people.
If you're not on a terrorist watch list yet, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, I'm on one. They've put my computer out so many times, it's unbelievable. You go in and you find out what's on your computer when it's Washington, D.C., Chicago, Massachusetts, and that's who's been in my computer.
Yeah, we had security following us our first week in Tampa.
I appreciate what you say, because if you want to know if you're wasting your time, if nobody's reacting, you're wasting your time.
You're right.
You value your own time and your impact by the reaction and response from the opposition.
Absolutely.
Let me put it this way, recently I had the IRS up my butt and having a real problem with them. And I had somebody actually, when I sent out that 30-page document on strategies that was considered need to learn, and the next day my email, I couldn't access my email. And I had to not go through AT&T, I had to go through their high-tech people just to get my whole system back up, because someone didn't change my passwords in my computer.
Yeah.
And that's how dangerous these people are.
Oh, yeah, they take everything.
They're evil. They're as low can be.
And let me bring up one thing about the abortion issue. I don't know if you believe in killing people, I don't. But,
Only with my gun.
well, with guns, but the abortion situation is killing. It's just an innocent somebody who can't get away from you while you kill them. But, you know, we've got this God's nail thing going on right now. Well, let me tell you, in Dallas, there is a Curtis Boyd who is known for aborting big babies. He does the same thing. His name is Curtis Boyd. He's on Greenville Avenue, and he is in Dallas, Texas.
And don't forget about Douglas Carpet.
That just came out
In
today.
Houston.
There's a big article on Drudge about
On
that.
the guy in Houston, but about, yeah, we've got to expose these people. The guy in Houston is that
We need to
hard.
get the flyers, the Operation Rescue whistleblower flyers. They offer a $25,000 reward to abortion clinic workers who will blow the whistle on these.
Butchers.
Murderers, they're murderers.
You know, the thing is, these people would be serial killers if there weren't abortion clinics. The things they're doing are, I'm sorry, I'm
belong to two
pregnant.
other organizations that address
Sorry.
these things, so,
I know.
yeah.
Going way back into the 80s, that was the main thing that separated the current Democratic Party and the Republican Party, was the abortion issue. They hated us for showing up, a few of us, and then we've got to be more of us. Changed the platform of the Republican Party on a lot of things, but that was the main thing first. And so if we stop caring about life, then our party doesn't amount to anything. We better care about life.
Could I add, it's an odd approach, but we need to choose the ground we fight on. We don't need to let the opposition choose it. In my mind, I'm not lacking pride for being a conservative or wearing the label of Republican, but I don't ever have to say that. I can talk about what is valued, and I can press what is valued and beat the crap out of the opposition because they cannot go there. If I go there as a Republican, they can play all the games that they want. But if I go to that fight and I fight for conservative values, they can't compete. I mean, that's my belief. And so it has nothing to do with a name. It has to do with the content of our message. And they want to talk about the R word. I go, I'm sorry, I'm talking about this, which is very important to me. Don't change the subject.
They go after personal attack instead of issues.
And they do.
It's always moves to personal attack.
But if you don't even have to respond to them. It's like adult to a child. Do you feel like you have to answer them?
Make them come to you.
Exactly. You have a point? Excuse me, I was, doing some work. Anyway.
You mentioned Dearborn a while ago. My wife and I have been there a couple of times. It's horrible up there.
It is.
And people are coming across from Canada into that area and settling because that's their
Yes.
their power.
Their home.
That's it. If you don't want that to happen in Texas, go to work now. You ought to go to Dearborn and see what's going on. It's the armpit of the world. It
Well,
really
it
is.
Those people are deceived, and they have no hope in their, it's not a religion, Islam is a way of life, and it encompasses everything. And there is no hope anywhere in it. It's like going to Israel and crossing over to Jordan, and when you do, it's like from positive, green, wonderful into nothingness.
Remember you was talking about the Christians a while ago. You know what they actually did to want to arrest them? They were handing out free Bibles.
That's right.
Is what they were doing.
And people
to
that
spread
came
the word
to
of
them.
God.
Right.
And the law showed up, we're going to arrest you.
They took their cameras, they destroyed their cameras,
That's right.
and these people were arrested, and the story was that they were supposed to be in an area, everybody kind of had a booth in an area, and they were not in their spot. Yet they weren't going up to people and harassing. If someone came to them, because they had on shirts that said they were Christians, and if someone came to them and they didn't want that to happen. Now, Dearborn has had to pay damages to those people after 3 years, but they were arrested. Now, that's pretty darn scary.
But the Muslims can do what they want to up there. If you go to a Walmart, you're going to get approached.
Well, that's right, and we need to, the secret is the Muslims are deceived people. Our job as Christians is to show them the gospel. Listen, their destiny is sealed in a bad place. Our job is, I volunteer, and I witness to Muslims every day. And I'm going to tell you, most Muslims are poor, they live in a cult, they're not allowed to know anything. They don't know anything else. And most of them are hungry, and anybody's hungry to hear the gospel. You share that's the only hope they've ever heard, and I'm telling you, most of them, they're not, it's like most Christians. They aren't Christians. Most Muslims aren't Muslims. They don't go to mosques. They don't do anything. They're atheists or agnostic. There's a God somewhere.
Well, they worship a different God than I do.
Totally God, totally different, but they want our God so bad. Do you know, when I talk to Muslims and I say, you realize we don't have to say to God, they go, oh, yes, we do. Oh, no, we don't. Your God doesn't have a son.
They claim they believe in the same Jesus we do too.
But they don't.
But they don't.
But you know,